Luke Evans. I am so pleased to have you here. Luke has been working, or the last 20 years, working for some of the world's most loved brands. And he's become to believe that resilience is not built in our biggest moments. It's built in the quiet, ordinary ones that shape how we show up every day. Across his life and work, one pattern has stayed consistent, especially amongst high achievers. When we're under pressure, we work harder. We try more. We push through. I'm feeling very called out now. But without understanding, that's actually driving the challenge. And at the level of belief in biology, that effort creates a disconnect. Over time, it shows up as burnout, disengagement, and corporate value nobody really believes in. Luke is a resilience coach and facilitator and the founder of EMOSIVEWork. His work has taken him through leadership and advisory roles, building businesses, living and working internationally, and supporting leaders and teams through periods of change and uncertainty. Along the way, he's seen what happens when capable people are expected to cope without tools, language, I love that, or systems to support them. Today, he works with leaders and teams to build resilient, purpose-led cultures grounded in how humans actually function, not through quick fixes or well-being initiatives or that, the pizza party and, give everybody a slice of pizza, but through everyday practices that support regulation, connection, and accountability. Because real change doesn't come from big ideas alone. It comes from small, repeatable moments done well over time. I absolutely love that. Luke, welcome.
Thank you so much.
It is an absolute pleasure to have you. I cannot. So a little bit of context for everybody that's watching and listening. The way we were having a little bit of a prep session beforehand and just chatting. I saw that you kind of sort of forgot the first time that we met, which was on a flight to London.
Yeah, I did. When you said it, I was like, good memory. Why though? Because you assume over there we all kind of it just molds into one.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
I was working a flight to London. I was actually called out for standby on that flight, talking about stars aligning and things.
How lucky are we?
I know, right? And then the three of you were the only, you, Candice and Matt, were the only three people in first class. And it was a funny story though. It was actually the first flight I was doing after I got braces, which we weren't allowed to have as crew. So I was like, they're from corporate. They're going to tell people. Mark Scoble's going to find out about this and I'm going to get into so much trouble. But what's beautiful is we are currently sitting in a podcast studio in Cape Town, and it's your first time to Cape Town. And is it your first time?
No, it's my second.
Is it your second time?
Yeah.
Okay,
first time in a long time.
First time in a long time. Okay. So, you are staying in the beautiful Camps Bay, and we're currently in a little podcast studio in Gardens. And it's incredible how this has sort of come to play, because you messaged me on Facebook and I was like, oh my God, he's coming to Cape Town. Like, I have to show him. Like, we haven't seen each other we didn't actually calculate that when we were in prep, like the last time we saw each other. Years, I'm like, easy 10.
Easy 10? Potentially. I reckon I would have seen you. So if we left in 2018, I reckon 2016, 2017.
Yes.
Probably that we actually spent time together.
Yes. Yeah. So now I've come to fetch you and I've brought you this podcast studio. And what's really cool is 3 years ago was when I actually launched the Leading with Andrew show when I did my first recording. And it happened in a very similar way. So today is really special because Monique, who was my first guest on the Leading with Andrew show, we were chatting on LinkedIn. And she was like, oh my God, I'm coming to Dubai. I'm like, oh my God, I have to book a studio for us. And then when you said I'm coming to Cape Town, I'm like, who better to have on a podcast to help me launch this podcast? So thank you so much for being here. How are you finding Cape Town?
Amazing. It's so beautiful. I mean, granted, we're in a very nice part of Cape Town. Love it. I really like it. This morning I went for a run from Camps Bay down to Clifton, or past Clifton. And is it Clifton?
Yeah.
And then came back again and then went for a very icy swim in the tidal pool there to kind of set my day. And I was literally sat there. How's this? I was sat there, standing there in the pool freezing, but doing deep breaths, getting my best Wim Hof in. And I was looking up and the sun is just piercing from above the, behind the mountain and coming across. And I was like, okay, I don't have a timer, but I'm going to time it that once this kind of reaches up and hits me, then that's when I'm going to get out of it. And it was just delightful.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. I love the whole cold dip thing. I used to go and do the cold swims there as well. What brought you back to Cape Town for a second time?
Second time. So I met someone in Australia about a year and a half ago. Was it a year and a half ago? Where are we now? Yeah, about a year and a half. Wow. Amazing. So he's French originally. Okay. His mum and dad are based in France. They're having their 50th wedding anniversary. Oh, so we said, well, why don't we meet? And they were like, we'll come to France. And then he was like, no. And then he'll come to Australia. It's like, no, let's do something else. And then when I happened to be there meeting them in October last year, I was like, have you ever been on safari? I was like, I've been very lucky to have done a few, actually. I was counting up. I've done like 4 safaris. I was like, who does that? Anyway, very lucky. But we lived in the Middle East, which made it much easier for us to be able to get around and do things. So anyway, I said to them about that. One thing led to another. They literally just went off and did it and was like, right, we've booked this. Meet us in Cape Town and we'll go from there. So we're here. We'll go to Stellenbosch. Then we'll come back and fly to Kruger. And then I can never pronounce probably, Hoedspruit.
Oh, Hoedspruit.
Oh, I love it. I was going to do my best, like Afrikaans, like Hoedspruit or something like that, after going to Kruger National Park.
It's a very good South African accent. So much. Not everybody gets it right, but you've got it to the T. I love that. That's incredible. So you're meeting with them, and when is their actual 50th anniversary?
On the 5th. Okay, so we're going to be on safari. So we timed it. We're trying to do it the other way, where we kind of do safari first and then we come here. And it's like, no, we're going to get here, chill out, get our bearings, get to Kruger, and then we're going to have there. So I think on the day we'll do like a private little breakfast in the morning, have some lunch, we'll go on safari in the afternoon. A dinner, they'll put on, get the hotel to do some nice stuff. And
that is incredible. You must be so excited. It's very cute.
Yeah.
Very, very cute. I love
very
that.
Sweet.
Now, obviously there's a lot of talk of resilience, and I was absolutely loving the prep that we were doing and just talking and having a catch up after so many years. I think so much has happened to both of us, which I think is great. But Andrew on basically almost anything. But basically what I want to achieve in the podcast, and the reason why I get people to, or encourage people to listen to the podcast, is it's on things that maybe people aren't talking about on resilience, because people automatically assume resilience is one particular thing, but it can look different in so many different ways and forms, and it shows up differently. But Andrew on is Andrew on Table Mountain, Andrew on eating, Andrew on this, but today it's Andrew on resilience. Now, my first question for you is what got you, or what was one of the most significant stories you can think of that got you to now doing this work for EMOSIVEWork?
Good question. The most significant, I would say, the kind of the story that took me into this work initially in terms of the resilience piece. So EMOSIVEWork I've had for a few years now. I was always kind of doing different stuff. It was always focused on building cultures. So I'm a culture guy at heart. I've done that for a good part of the last decade. I've always been, interestingly, when I look over kind of my span of my career, I've always been around people. So I've kind of been connected to the people team. So even when I was at Etihad and working staff benefits, but I was always with the people team. Even if I was in revenue management, I was very focused on the benefit of employees and making sure people looked after. So always been around people. About a decade ago, just less, it was like, okay, moving into this very clear, deliberate culture and experience place. So what does it take to build an intentional culture, a purpose-led culture? And I was with Virgin Group. What better place, right? What better place?
Always wanted to wear that red uniform and that purple scarf.
I remember putting together amazing, we were delivering a whole new kind of engagement survey piece. And it was called Mojo. It was all about getting our mojo back.
Oh, I love, you see, this is, sorry to interrupt you, but this is the thing that I love. Like, companies think culture is an engagement survey, a pizza party every quarter, and a town hall.
Yeah.
And that's where they stop it. And that's where they go. And I'm like, Mojo, you've given it a theme. And people don't, I'm sorry, I'm just had this bright spark, like light bulb now. But I mean, like, people don't theme things like that. Yeah. Getting my mojo back.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, I don't mean to hijack. I'm going to let you get back to it now. But I remember when I was still at Etihad, we had the Smile campaign. Yeah. What that did for culture, just by forcing people to smile, was incredible. Yeah. Absolutely incredible. Sorry, I didn't mean to hijack you there.
No, but it's
getting your mojo back at Virgin. Yeah.
It was really about getting the mojo back, and they still have it. I don't know how they deliver it now, but at that point, our intention was about, we wanted people to get their mojo back. And so we were really intentional in our approach of doing it, but intentional in how we design the experience and how we design the system. How do we have the conversations around it? People were like, why do I want to answer this? It just gives the executives more money. Basically, that's what you're looking for, right? Dare we say it?
Dare we say it? But we're saying things. We're saying the things that people are saying.
Right? And so we were like, fair. So firstly, we'd go have a conversation.
And it's 100% anonymous.
Yeah. But as people who cared about that, we made sure it was. Like we were like, oh, we refuse to be the people at the front pretending to put a campaign together and not backing it up with the integrity that it needed. So when we heard from people that they didn't believe in it, we went back to the CEO and said, this is what people believe. You either own it if it is true, or you make sure that they understand through some form of metric that it's not. But right now, they don't believe you. Now, the point I tell you this is not to go into the mantra campaign, but it's to say that I was always a culture guy, because for me, culture is very simple. It's behavior repeated every single day.
It's so true.
If anyone talks about culture and they think it's this really elusive, complex thing, it's not. It's just repeated behavior. And if you believe you're doing culture or you're not doing it, you're also wrong, because culture is happening whether you like it or not.
Exactly.
It's just whether you want to be intentional about it. And so for me, a lot of the culture work that we have done over time has been around that. But you asked, what was the significant piece that took me in? It was coming out the back of some significant personal challenges. And kind of recalibrating and deciding what is the thing in which I want to focus on. So I would go into organizations. We were known, at Virgin, we were known as a coloring in department. Because that's what people thought we did, right? But I bloody tell you as I point at this microphone, we have methodology. So anyway, that was the hilarious part, but I tell it always in jest because it's a funny thing to have, is that we were seen as the coloring in department back in the day.
Learning and development was always seen as the happy clappy HR.
Yeah, right.
The dancers.
I like being in that. But the reality was, when I walked in as the coloring in department, I realized I was trying to get people to believe and buy into this vision, right? This purpose I'd come up with, these values, and I do a very good job at it, I'll tell you. But the challenge I have is not about whether my work is good or not.
So that's continuous.
It's about the people in the room, right? Because they were not there. People are sat there who are not present, and not that they're not present physically, emotionally, mentally.
They're burnt out.
They're burnt. And so I was like, I can't keep flogging this culture piece if I don't know how to get people connected to themselves.
Oh, wow. That's profound.
Yeah, it was a moment for me, right? And it kind of led into another kind of methodology, which we'll speak to, I'm sure, at some point, which is around belief, biology, and behavior, and the need for these three lenses to be aligned in order to get particular outcomes. But how did I land there? For a very long way of getting around it. I was in Dubai. You and I were just briefly talking about this. I was in Dubai over there doing a massive piece of work with a group of companies. Fantastic, back second time. Came out the other side of this. They wanted me to stay. I designed a brand. We're doing awesome things. I was working with big name people over there as well in the wellness space, which I was really lucky for. And something wasn't sticking. Something wasn't quite right for me. Dubai didn't want me. Every time I kept trying to find a place. I
kind of know that feeling.
Yeah. I literally was trying to find a place, and it was like every time everything would fail. And I was like, okay, Dubai, you've been very accommodating from a short-term perspective. And I'm a big, what's the universe kind of tell me here, right? I was like, I think I'm not meant to be here longer term. And it wasn't. Fast forward within a couple of months, things had kind of shifted emotionally for me. And I was like, and I'm obviously on culture guys, I'm very emotional. I need to have that connection. And I went, I know, I think I need to go home. And why do I need to go home? Well, at that point, for context, for people who don't know me, my eldest brother had been diagnosed with brain cancer, stage 4 in 2021. We had been navigating through that. This was now 2024. And I just had a feeling. And everything was, I kind of been given the grace of being over there for a year. And it was almost like the universe was going, your time's running out now.
Yeah.
You probably need to go home. And so I went home, and within 2 months, my brother passed. And for anyone who's lost a loved one, it's obviously a very difficult time. We all play different roles within family units for that. My family are all amazing. We're all very well connected. They all played their role in some way. I'm probably the one who, at that point, I definitely became far more stoic, and I was the one who wanted to hold it for everybody. And I was very focused on maintaining a sense of harmony across it and what is the right outcome that we need here.
What did that take from you, though, in doing that?
I was exhausted. I was exhausted. I was a shell of a person at the end of it. Not in a negative way.
No. It's your family and things like that.
It's like, what do you look like after you run a marathon? Do you know what I mean? It's like,
except it's every day, every hour, you don't stop running.
Exactly. But you don't say to someone after a marathon, oh my God, that's so stupid. You're so tired. You shouldn't have run it.
No.
You know what I mean? Like I was running a marathon and I had to for my family and I had to for the situation because that's life, man. Like it's life. So I went through that process. My family had their versions of it for them, I'm sure, but I'm very much the one in the family who wants to try and like make sure everyone's doing okay and we remain connected. And there's lots of things that come up when you're dealing with a loved one passing. Relationships between people, people's response to things, that sort of stuff. And so I was trying to make sure we all focused on what mattered most, which was being there for my brother and ensuring that we support him in his transition from this world into the next, right? And making sure that we realize that we're down a teammate and so that we must remain an even more united team. And that was really the essence around it.
If I may ask, if you'd like to talk about it, but how did that show up in making sure, we're down a teammate and it's an incredible difficult time because everybody's going into grief and grief can show up in so many different ways. People get angry, the 5 stages of grief. How did that show up? Did you physically sit down and have a conversation with the family? Did you go, right, this is what I can do. What can you do?
A series of things.
Okay.
I think for me as a culture, I'll refer back as a point of this conversation. As a culture guy, I always say, when I go into organizations, I'm putting my finger on the pulse. I'm just trying to get like a sense check, like how are we doing in here? How are people feeling? What are they saying? What are they not saying? So I was doing a lot of that because I'm very natural in doing that, which was I'd watch my mum get into a spin about something. And so I would be very firm to be like, stop, you go and do this. You're obviously not coping and that's understandable. I'm capable of doing this. I need you to leave the room, go take the boys, go do this. I'm going to take care of this. This is what I'm going to do. And so me and his wife were joking, but we were, being the nurses in there. And so we were making sure everything's taken care of. But it was the best I could do. I needed to be active in my support. Otherwise, I wouldn't quite know what to do, right? And then afterwards, it was around navigating difficult moments where people are making decisions and other people don't agree with them and then going, but what's important here? Is this really going to be the thing that we want to remember or could we do our own version and do we accept this to be what it is? So it was a lot of mediating, right? Which is pretty much what I do in a lot of stuff. It's how do I help to mediate this to go, what's the actual objectively, what are we trying to get here? I know you feel that way, but what does best outcome look like? Because there are two different things, you know this. They're two different things. I know you feel that way, but that doesn't mean that that's the place in which we're going. That's just the data point that's showing. But where are we going? And is this data point the most effective use of our time? Or do we just need to deal with that? And then we can start going here.
When did you realize you could pick up on these points? Because I asked, because I've picked up on a couple of patterns now, sort of like in the prep work and just even having this conversation here. Was there a moment that you also realized I'm starting to see what people are trying to say without them saying it? And I need to say the thing that's not being said.
Yeah, good question. When did I probably couldn't pinpoint where. I've always known I've got the capacity for it, and it probably comes from a bit of family of origin stuff.
Well, it always does. It always does.
It comes from, a hyper-developed right part of the brain over, needing a sense of hypervigilance in my childhood.
Safety, familiarity.
For a series of things we probably don't need to go into here. So
just for context, hashtag twinning.
Oh my God, we'll be here all day. I know, because in my head already I'm thinking, God, this would be really interesting to talk about. So a series of things from when I was young. So when I was young as well, just for context, I was born with really acute eczema from head to toe. I had it for the first 10 years of my life. On top of that, we then had family dynamics and particular things that were happening. And so there's lots of stuff there. So I think naturally I've always been a hypervigilant person. I've always been really sensitive to how people feel. I also have my own, if I say it on here, it's a bit weird, but I have my own unique ability to kind of read people very well in terms of I can look at their face and get a very deep insight into them. So I think it's just been a developed capability, but I've also used it as a bit of a superpower because that's how I go into organizations. I use data. I use, what information what metrics can we use to get this information? But, everyone has their own little thing. That's what makes us uniquely human.
Absolutely.
It's our ability to go beyond the metrics and to feel into the moment and to go, I don't know what it is, but the information is telling me this and lean into it and just go with it.
it's such a, my mind's going like 500 miles an hour down like several different highways. But, and that's one of the things as well. And I'm so glad that you said that with regards to sort of data and things, is they did a study because a lot of people try the Spock mentality from Star Trek or Star Wars, but it's where you just think with logistics and numbers and data and things like that. And there was a neuroscientist that did a study on human beings that had head injuries or lesions that separated or completely severed the connection between the limbic or emotional brain and the logic part of the brain, so the sort of right and left hemisphere. And people thought these people would make the best CEOs because then they're making all decisions based on logic. And it was quite the opposite. Because people had all this data, they couldn't even make simple decisions like what to have for lunch. They would present you with all the logic and data and details, but they had no connection to feeling, and emotions are how we rank or value things, right? So the fact that you are able to go into a business, you've now, and it always comes from childhood, but it's now served us and it now is our income. So yay, yay. But it's, you're able to go in, and I hope everybody that's sort of listening and anybody that's the logic side of things, love logic. I surround myself with people that operate comfortably in logistic sections that need a lot of evidence and things like that. And I myself can go down a rabbit hole relatively quickly, but it's not the way forward in business. And people underestimate the power of what culture can do over and over and over again. But particularly in culture, and you said something really nicely earlier around the theme for Virgin's culture was getting my mojo back. I think that should be the theme for like almost every company, because we've just accelerated from post-COVID to a speed that's not sustainable. You know that, right? How would you define resilience?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So resilience in terms of the work that I do now. So I guess the point of the conversation up until that point was how do we find and come to resilience? We can come back to that. But how do we define resilience now? Resilience is defined by three very simple words, which is advancing despite adversity. Advancing despite adversity. Why advancing? Well, we love purpose and meaning. We are meaning-making machines. That's what we are as humans, right? And we also love purpose. And if you think about it, the times where you have felt most challenged lately has been where your vision has been limited. You've got a lot of energy below it, but your vision behind it has been limited. And that's okay. We all do that. We're human. I think part of the challenge, though, is recognizing that this wonderful little meatloaf between your ears loves forward motion. So if we're ever looking for happiness, you're never going to find it. It is on the sidelines to anticipation, forward motion, movement toward. That's what we love. Goals, alignment, congruence, all that good stuff. The next part is despite. It's the fact that we recognize that we do the work beforehand. So a lot of the work I do in resilience, and we'll come to this, I guess, is it's a proactive and preventative approach to mental health. And so it's looking at how do we have these proactive and preventative measures, not just because it sounds good and we're trying to do it in advance, but that's how your brain operates. It's the best part of the brain, right? In terms of if I'm trying to, so for instance, a lot of people say resilience, you learn it through tough times. BS. You don't learn it through tough times. I didn't learn to be more resilient when my brother died. What I learned was the quality of my toolkit. And how do I know that?
Oh, sorry. Say that again. Say that again. You didn't learn resilience when your brother passed away. You learned what about your toolkit?
I learned about the quality of my toolkit.
Oh my God. Okay. Woo! That's going to be bolded. That's going to be like double said in production.
Yeah.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, the question then is, how do you develop your toolkit? And so what you want to do is you want to look at some really simple neurobiological principles, some neuroscience around it as to how the brain operates and how best it operates, and at what time. And that's why despite is an important one, because we want to do it in advance. We want to be proactive, which means I want to go and learn those skills when I'm in my prefrontal, not in my limbic brain. When we're in a moment where we require resilience, we're likely in limbic brain reaction. The brain doesn't learn there. That's not a learning part of the brain. That's a survival part of the brain, and that's okay. But we need to recognize that. So despite is proactive. We don't wait. We do things in advance. And then adversity, well, because it's what's like guaranteed for us. We said this before, we were laughing, and I was like, there's two things in the world. And I always say this in everything, if you've heard me speak, there are two things guaranteed for us. Most people say death and taxes. We both know that's bullshit because we've lived in the Middle East.
Amen.
We could avoid damn your taxes.
Gone into tax evasion.
Yeah. But two things I believe are guaranteed for us is death and adversity. And adversity is not just the big stuff.
I'm so glad. I was literally going to ask you to go continue.
Yeah, it's not just losing my brother. Adversity is, on the drive here this morning, we had, some bloody idiots on the road doing whatever. You had certain little micro stresses. You would have had adversities trying to get to Joburg this week to do your delivery and coming back. These micro stresses build over time. It's recognizing adversity as both the big and the small things. And so when it comes to resilience, it is not about just doing tough things and manning up and, you'll be right and get on with the BS that exists out there. It is about recognizing that we must advance despite adversity. And so that is why I look at resilience as a skill. And so we don't.
Oh my God, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Resilience is not about a concept on its own. It is about recognizing the skills of resilience and how do we develop those and develop said toolkit so that in the moment, when the going gets tough, we can actually lean on that toolkit. And that toolkit is not as simple as, okay, now let's think about the toolkit. It is, how do we wire the brain through neuroplasticity? How do we wire the brain with these new skill pathways so that in that moment, that's the thing that we lean on subconsciously? How do I have it so that, and if we're, you can see it on here, if my hand, if you look at it like this, if you're looking at the video, you can see this is my brain. You can see this is the stem. If my thumb here is seen as the limbic brain and this part here is the prefrontal cortex, what we're doing with resilience is we're building the pathways, we're stitching it together, because with the lack of that, when something happens, right?
Yeah.
But we want to have this. That would sound great on a podcast. What we want is
this is brilliant.
I was like, oh my God. I'm so used to standing.
This is going to be a short. This is definitely going to be a short for the podcast.
I'm so used to standing in front of people to be like showing them this. So I'm trying to do it here. Anyway, so you want to be able to build those neural pathways. That's what we're doing. We're building the skill of resilience proactively so that your brain can lean on something. And so that's why neuroscience becomes a really important part about it. Not because I'm a neuroscientist, but rather how do we lean on the evidence of these neurobiological principles to understand how your machine operates.
And it's funny because, so what happens when neurons extend new dendrites, I think it is. What causes them to do that is acetylcholine. Now, at the brain, when we are born, essentially as human beings, is only really half prepared. That's why acetylcholine is everywhere. That's why we stay curious. That's why we learn so much. But what tends to happen is when one thing is reinforced, and you know this, is reinforced, the brain eventually stops releasing acetylcholine to that, and that neurocircuitry is wrapped in a myelin sheet, which is a fatty tissue, but it's almost like cement, because what happens is it sends the electrical impulses faster. But now, if I'm going to learn something new, I need to somehow force acetylcholine to be released in order for a new neural pathway to be formed. And that is very difficult for people. So when you say, like in concept, we need to build this toolkit or the quality of our toolkit, where do you even get people to start? If I've got somebody listening going, what's step one?
Yeah, it is a tough one, right? So in terms of the work that I do specifically, we deliver our kind of core program is called Resilience First Aid. So for those out there who've done mental health first aid, we do Resilience First Aid. It was designed under a company called Driven Resilience. And so before I even got to that, to connect it in terms of the story of how I got there, I went through a period of time where I was completely lost, right? But I knew that there was a problem I was trying to solve at some point. And eventually I came out the other side. And in that, my own version of having resilience and adversity and coming through it and being 36 and living with my family and not having a steady income after just the last year, literally sitting across at podcast, hosting like incredible well-being, like people in the world who were doing amazing stuff and being like, I can't believe this is my life, to suddenly being like, I can't believe this is my life. So then coming out the other side of it and going, Okay, I think this is the thing, and there's a bit of a story piece there actually at some point we can pick up on around how I even came to the concept of resilience. But the resilience piece was then like I was building it, and then I went and I called the CEO of a company called Driven Resilience because I was like, I need a mentor because I'm going to build this program around resilience because I think this is the problem we're trying to solve. And spoke to him, heard about the program, was like, why the hell am I, like, why am I building it when they literally have it? And so then I got accredited through them to do this one, which is great. So I give you all that context for those
this is brilliant. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Oh my God.
Please. We have spicy brains bouncing around the place. But I give all that context because I am now accredited in this piece of work, which is focused on resilience first aid, and Driven Resilience need to have their call out for it because it is their program. But it is a proactive, preventative approach to mental health. It is looking at resilience in a series of ways. So we define it first. We understand the concept. We look at some neuroscience around it. What does that look like? And then we start looking at it through the 6 domains of resilience. So it's a PR6 model, a predictive 6-factor model designed back in 2015, evidence-based, peer-reviewed, all over the world, right? We've got tons of data around it. They do an annual resilience index now that's building, getting us plenty more data to be able to use to look at the correlation between it.
Is that a global index?
For those who are participating. So obviously it's still building out. Yeah. So right now the focus is on Australia and the US. But in terms of the PR6 data in that index overall, it's whoever's done it. So they could be all over the world as well. So this is why we need to get into more countries, because then we're going to collect more data. But ultimately the program itself, and what I love about the program is it is done in such a way where people are taken through a series of work and they can find their path of like, where do I start? So first we need to figure out what's your resilience score. And so what we see around this resilience score using the 6 domains of resilience, and those 6 domains are your vision, it's composure, it's reasoning, health, tenacity, and collaboration. They're the 6 domains of resilience, right? And within each of those 6 domains, we have 4 key skills and strategies that we can teach you that are directly correlated to building that domain. On top of that, you can do plenty of other stuff once you understand the concepts. So I give you a score, and then you can do something with that score. Now, nothing I do is ever about personality testing or who you are. I think it's absolute rubbish. And we actually have plenty of
another
data.
Podcast.
Yeah, literally. Well, there's data now showing through the Big 5 personality, when we look at it with the resilience skills, there's data showing that personality isn't as fixed as we once believed it to be. Yes. Yeah. So that's why I don't like telling people who they are. I love saying where you are. So Andrew, this is where you are right now. This is what your score tells us. And why do we know it's where you are? Because resilience is a verb and it is a skill set. So if I develop your skill of resilience, it will continue to be something that you will develop over time and maintain. You and I both wish we could go to the gym for 3 months, build up to a point, and then stay there forever, right? But we can't. We must suck it up.
I just want to put this on record. I don't go to the gym to be healthy, though.
No, but even to look the way that you do, right? You know what is required every day. Your resilience is no different. I don't know why we believe physical fitness requires one thing, but our mental and emotional fitness requires another. You have to build the same way. It's just that
when people tell you to just get over it and just move on, it's like essentially telling you to go and run with a broken leg.
Literally.
But they just can't see it.
Yeah.
But nobody would tell you that if they saw the cast.
Exactly. Perfect. That's a great analogy. It's like, and that's why even, coming to the analogy piece, when I talk about building resilience, if you don't do it proactively, it's like assuming you're going to learn how to run a marathon by running a marathon. It's so dumb. So, anyway, so let's get.
I have So you are now sitting at a pivotal moment in your life. And sort of in the preamble that we were going through, it was a lead up to this moment. And you're sitting and in your living room, you've had an experience at CrossFit. You've had, you've ordered food, and you are now having probably multiple external assaults in the form of thoughts coming at you in all different directions. When did you realize in that moment, I need to grab my toolkit, or even remember that you've got a toolkit that you've been building for so many other people? You're the culture guy. And here you're sitting, like you were saying earlier, 36, parents, place, you just come from Dubai where you're on podcasts with people, and now this, like you're here. when did you have realize that you need to go and use your toolkit? And actually, there, I'll leave that there. For my spicy brain takes it.
Yeah, I need to go and use my toolkit. So the way the brain, I'm not. We listen to so much podcasts and things. I don't want to sit here like some expert in this way. But as I understand it, the way the brain works, when we're in that state of survival, when we have limbic brain response, if we're not in our prefrontal, we're not in our executive thinking. Therefore, I'm going to use my default mode network. That's what I'm using.
DMN.
Yeah. Right. So I'm on my default mode network on the basis that this is the thing in which I know to be true and the way to navigate it. Doesn't mean it's going to be good, right, or otherwise. So after my brother had passed and in those first couple of months, I went through a really rocky period and I was leaning on everything to soothe my soul. I was looking for it. God, we could have some real conversations here, but I think because we're talking work, I might keep a couple of these stories in my pocket. But I remember going.
That'll be Andrew after dark.
But I remember going like, I would use certain methods to try and regulate myself. And I was using all of these methods or attempting to, but didn't want it. And it was this huge dichotomy in me where I was like wanting to go down the pathway of not self-destruction, but make it go away, make the pain stop. I remember sitting on the side of the road for 20 minutes one time. That's a random story too. Sitting on the side of the road for 20 minutes, I was so desperate to just go and see someone who I knew I'd just be hooking up with. So desperate, right? I just wanted to go basically have sex because I was so sad and I was so...
You wanted to feel something that wasn't...
something, but I knew by going and doing that, it was also not aligned to who I was. It wasn't aligned to my values that I hold, to all the things I stood by. I mean, this is...
And you're sitting on the side of the road and you're having this crossroads.
And I sat there for 20 minutes and I was like, almost like an addict, right? I talked to my therapist about it because I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? I'm gonna get real.
It's almost like watching yourself do something, but you can't stop yourself.
And I sat there and I was like, and it was overwhelming. And I knew it was just a response to pain, right? Because that's what we do. And so self-soothing for me was going to be taken through this particular route. It took me 20 minutes. And I remember talking to her because she specializes in addiction, not why I went to her, but it's an interesting connection. And she said, actually, that's like this addiction way for people who are in that space and they have 15, that vice, you have to just give yourself that moment, right? So it was quite interesting to have that moment in this intensity of what the fuck do I do? So it was a mixed bag of, I knew the things that were right. I could see my body responding with what it wanted.
Well, this is gold.
But it needed me to sit in the mess,
sit
in the discomfort. I sat there crying, angry, like I don't want to be that person. So I was like fighting with myself. And then after 20 minutes, I went, okay, put it down. Drove off.
Holy fuck.
It was intense. So you're asking, how do you lean in your toolkit at the time? I don't know other than, because this is before I did this work. I don't know other than I remember thinking, is this aligned to who I say that I am? It was really focused on, there was a real sense of character was involved in this. I was like, how can you sit in front of people and speak the things that you do and not live true to those in these really difficult moments?
I think you just called out about 98% of coaches out there.
And it was hard. It was really hard. And again, it wasn't about getting it right and it wasn't about being perfect. I'm sharing that, which was a little exposing, but I'm sharing that story because that's the nature of the world in which we live in. So everything I teach is never from a place of perfection. It's never from a place of saying it's super easy. I'm like, actually, it's not. It's really effing horrible. And it is horrible. And I've had 5 years of therapy on top of this, which has enabled me to build those neural pathways we spoke about earlier so that in that moment, I can come back to something. So what I did do at the end of 2022 is I stopped drinking. And that was a really important moment because I didn't do it that much, but I could see how it wasn't giving me a sense of clarity. I also had my own personal reasons around it as well. And also because I had a brother who was dying of brain cancer who couldn't drink because that inflamed his brain and would make it worse. And I was like, why the hell would we... That's my whole podcast in itself. So there's a series of things and changes I had made along the way that were enabling me to have more clarity so I could act from a place with a greater level of discernment because I felt that that was a thing I needed to stay online, to be true to my character and to be able to navigate these what were really difficult times because it's very easy to use a vice of choice.
Do you think part of what you do, not part of what you do, but part of what you were doing in those moments was and this is incredibly difficult for me to do, and I try and practice it, but the power in the pause.
Yeah. Yeah. You need the pause. We need to have it. And in fact, it's part of a composure technique, right? To get out. I remember teaching it to a client only recently. I took our skills that we had and I was like, right, let me put this translator into something you can use literally from today. And that was around the power of the pause. It was like, because we need to give the brain the space to then come back online again. And again, we teach it. This is why we teach the neuroscience in it, recognizing when your limbic brain is activated. So when we move into what we call your impulsive brain, we teach you around how does the brain filter information and then what's happening in there, but also recognizing that when your limbic brain is active, your prefrontal cortex, you actually reduce blood flow to it because it is preparing your body for survival response. So when people turn around and they're kind of going like, oh, I got this message and oh my God, I'm so angry, I can't even think. It's like, you actually can't think because your prefrontals had a reduction in the blood flow that's going to it and your body's responding for survival. So what we want to recognize first
is for survival by soothing for somebody that's impulsive. So because I want to understand this sort of correctly, because I'm very impulsive.
Yeah.
Like I can be very, very impulsive and I've gotten better over the years, but I know that like, okay, cool. That survival is wanting me to go and seek out something that is familiar, but could potentially be destructive or detrimental.
Kind of. Okay.
We're fine.
Yeah. So going into a space where we know that survival has activated, what's really important and what we teach people is to recognize the physical signs and symptoms of that response. Because the more you're aware, the more you can do. So you say, I know I'm impulsive. What I would want to look at then is, do you know and can you identify and label the signs and symptoms in the body when that impulsive moment is happening? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? What does it look like?
Oh, you asked me now.
No, well, here we go. No, because every time, but I want you to think of that, right? So as an individual, it'd be like, okay, well, I know in the heat of that moment, my mind gets really like I race a lot in my mind. I'm feeling like I need a quick solution to something. If I'm having a survival response, maybe I've got shaky, maybe my heart rate's increased, maybe I'm sweaty all of a sudden. You know, there's signs and symptoms.
I know when I know.
Yeah, these are simple things to recognize that you're in a sympathetic system, right? So we're saying the body has shifted its nervous system to a survival response. And so what we do is by recognizing that the body's moved into that, we can now decide for ourselves whether we're going to keep going down that pathway. Also recognizing if you do, that's okay. You're human. This was not about sainthood. This was about being human. Yeah.
I am sorry. I need to answer this question because you were incredibly vulnerable. So I need to be vulnerable too, because it's not fair that, you know, I sit here like I'm all perfect. I tend to become really impulsive when I have a lot of good things on the go.
Okay.
So I'm like, the last time I had something really, really sort of impulsive, when I had like really impulsive behavior, there was so much good things happening. It was almost overwhelming. And I was like, I had to do something to slow it down, not completely destroy it, but slow it down, which is impulsive behavior, numbing, whatever you want to do, which everybody uses something different. But what has essentially happened is I'm working on a number of good things at the moment, but I think because, and maybe this speaks to one of the vision components of the six PR, the PR6, right? Is what I'm working on now is I'm building quite a number of web apps. I've just found this love for coding and structure and all of that, you know, spicy brain. And even though I've got a lot of good things and exciting things on the go, I don't find that impulsion or that compulsive or impulse coming up, because I don't know if it's a sense of control, or I don't mean this to turn into a therapy session, but it's very, very interesting. On my body is just like, all I can do in that moment is like, I need to shut the noise down when it's overwhelmed, right? So, I need to, so what I do is I'll try and get everything done that needs to be done. So that I know that if I go and I'm impulsive and I go and do stupid things, I can take tomorrow off. I can't.
Okay.
But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not responsible, impulsive, not at all. But I'm trying to, like, in my body, I can't explain it. It's almost like, I just finish this so that you can go and do that thing. It's like rebellion almost. That's my impulse. Okay. Okay, sorry.
No, I'm trying to think about like, so your impulsiveness in that moment where it's like, finish this so I can go do those other things. I mean, you can build structure for yourself to kind of go instead of feeling like, I mean, it's a little bit of a spicy brain trait, which is like we try and do a million different things. And then it's like, once I've got them done, then I can go and enjoy myself. Thank God for that, because
we never learn.
Frame. Yeah. But at the same time, I think it's around recognizing, am I in a moment of impulse? What is my body telling me that I am? And then as a result, what is that ultimately telling me? So it tells me either I'm under threat, I'm uncertain, because that's also filtered as being under threat. Because remembering, and we spoke about this before, but for the sake of the audience, it's like the brain loves familiarity. It's designed to be energy efficient. There's nothing wrong. And this is what we teach in resilience. There's nothing wrong with your brain. It's beautifully designed. In fact, had it not, and your ancestors not had the brain that you have, you would not be listening to these wonderful dulcet tones on this podcast today. But you're welcome. However, what we also have to recognize is it's not necessarily well equipped for the modern age. And so in those moments when you are becoming hyper impulsive, and it doesn't always have to be impulsive to a negative, it can just be impulsive where it's like, I'm running 100 miles out because it's like uncertain. And so to get certain, I'm going to do more. The brain loves information. So the brain's going to keep seeking more and more information to try and fill that piece of uncertainty. And so eventually over time, you'll recognize that you're running from a big piece of uncertainty that's sitting deep inside of you right now that we maybe spoke about earlier. And do you think it's uncertainty,
or do you think it's almost fear of the possibility? Well, it's both. It's actually both. Fear of possibility, because it could be potentially great, but that potentially great is also uncertain.
I mean, the only thing that came from me when you were talking before, and we're off track a little bit, but like, do you think you're worthy of the things you're building?
It's a question I have. Yeah, a lot of the time.
I think you do. I think there's a question there. I think
that's charged. Yeah.
And I think you're exceptionally worthy of it. But I think it's around, what's the race you're running, and if you were on your deathbed tomorrow, is it all relevant? Is it the things you're going to? It's funny you say that.
We did a values exercise at this one speaker as part of the PSA. So it's a speaker foundation I'm part of, and he said, write down on 5 pieces of paper the 5 things that are important to you. So he didn't necessarily say values, so it could be sort of material and non-material. Anyway, I wrote the 5 things down, and he one by one made you sacrifice. But the first thing that you sacrifice, you have to put face down. And eventually you put them down face down in order. And he says, now pick it up. So what's in front of you is the first thing that you sacrifice. And he says, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say you're probably spending the most time on that. And I was like, whoa, it's so true. The things that I'm doing now, the things that I'm spending so much time on, and I've become aware of it, but it's awareness, they say, is the first step, but it's actually then being resilient enough to continue building my toolkit, right? Yeah. But I sort of have a question around what, and I know we were talking about sort of pre-mortem seed and things, but we don't just go too much into that, but I want to know, what do you say to people that go, oh yeah, but how can I can use Gen AI to teach me about resilience. I can, ChatGPT keeps me company, and I know what the definition of resilience is, and we've just got to get on with it. What do you say to people like that?
I think, to not be in judgment. If that's your model of the world, that's your model of the world. I think it's going to be short-lived. Emotive work was designed with the belief, my tagline is start within. So it's a belief that whether I'm dealing with resilience or culture, everything starts within. So I think the more you outsource, I was only writing something yesterday about this. I was trying to think of, I woke up with this thought of conscious intelligence, and it was around, I know it's a whole thing.
Oh, copyright exclusive on the Andrew On podcast.
But I was like thinking around the fact that we're outsourcing everything to artificial intelligence. And at the end of the day, we're underplaying the value of our conscious intelligence, and people then argue around what is consciousness, and we can go into a whole heap of things. But as humans, we know there are things that fundamentally make us us. And I don't care whether a system can mimic me as a human. It will never be me. And so you want to build your resilience, I need you to come back to yourself. So a lot of the conversations I have with people is about going, okay, I recognize that we can get lots of other things to do things, but we can also recognize, and this is where my belief, biology, behavior come into it. When we talk about biology, I can also recognize that when I do hard things, I build wiring around that. When I outsource hard things, I lose the wiring around that.
Confidence is reverse engineered.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. So it's like recognizing that if you want to build your resilience, you got to do it. I won't have muscles if I don't go to the gym. I can't do anything. AI can't give me muscles. It can change my photo, but sorry, when they come to meet you, they're going to see very quickly that you're not it, right? Same goes for your wonderful little meatloaf between your ears. It's like you can't fake it. Everything we can do is build skill and practice it, and that's going to get outcome. So if I know that I have the right set of beliefs and I develop that through the structure of my biology, and then that translates into that behavior and they're fully aligned and connected, then that builds a life of congruence. It builds a life where I can look and find and navigate between these three perspectives to be able to go, okay, what do I believe in that moment? What are the structures around it? And then what's actually happening outside of it? And are they aligned to each other? So to those people, I would say, if you believe that, that's okay. That's your prerogative. That's the joy of being human, is we have the freedom to express ourselves however we want. But however, would you like to develop the skill of resilience, and we'd like to develop a strength within yourself? Come back to you.
That's the mic drop, is when you give people that choice, right? This is incredible. So you've had an incredible career. You've built beautiful things for beautiful companies, and you've built beautiful things for people. And you were stuck in this moment where you had to go and pick out from your resilient toolkit or your resilient toolkit. And now you're doing this incredible work with EMOSIVEWork that you've got going. And I think it's almost like your love child. It's like your baby, you know? And it's a gift that you give to the world. I think everything that I've had probably a top level understanding of resilience, but I've never ever considered it in the multiple perspectives that you've given me today. I think it's absolutely beautiful. But now that you're doing the work with EMOSIVEWork and you've gone through incredibly difficult times, what's next for you?
Good question. So I'm, to be fair, on this trip, before I came here, I mean, the irony of it, I was feeling quite burnt out.
Really?
I mean, I literally just did a talk to a very large finance organization in Australia about burnout. And then I wrote my weekly article, and I was like, the irony of the person writing this, but however, we learn through what we do, right? I have a very, I'm very big on lived experience. And my astrology shows the same too. So look at everything here. So coming over here, I was feeling exceptionally burnt out. I've recently moved to Sydney, so I was based in Brisbane. I went back there where my family were, and then met my partner who's living in Sydney. So moved to Sydney at the start of this year. Sydney's been, on one hand, amazing, right? Big companies, big opportunities. They're all like, the fruit is just like, I can smell it, but it's taken a minute, right? So these last few months have been hard for anyone who is thinking to go and do their own thing. Do it. It's incredible. But my God, build these skills before you do it. It will call on every part of you to be able to get there. So these last few months have been difficult in a way where, I have woken up every day and just pressed on and have been hustling and advocating and building, and there's some really good stuff coming, but haven't tasted all the fruit just yet from a Sydney perspective. So it's been tough. So what's next for EMOSIVEWork? Right now, I'm still pushing on the resilience piece, and a lot of the work I'm getting it's mixed bag. One is I do a lot of talks, but I also go in and do workshops with leaders where we're doing like 2 to 3 hours. I take the concept of resilience, so we look at the neuroscience and the skills around resilience, but I build it out and tailor it into a program for them. So what's the problem you're trying to solve? In the first part of it, we talk a lot about, let's talk about how you feel and what's happening. Let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Imagine an organization, some organizations I've worked with before going, how do you feel?
What? What? But then teaching them, we need to understand that emotions are just data points, and that's okay. We can work with them. So let's do that. But then now we've learned these resilient skills. How do we apply it? And so that's a lot of the leadership stuff I do. But then I have my full 2-day program. Now, organizations are engaging me to help them build out like learning and development processes and design for them. How do we embed this resilience piece? I'm forever up against people who are kind of going like, oh, everyone keeps talking about resilience. It's rubbish. You know, we need this, we need that. And I'm like, you just don't understand it, but that's okay. You know, we fight the good
Send them
fight.
this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So it's for me though, I think, you know, it's really around building community and getting more connected with people in the problems. That's what I need to do a lot more of. I've been
So we're here to talk about what challenges we've had. I am very ad hoc with my content, but I know it gets good engagement. People, always say it's great and it's good to listen to. But I just think there's so many people out there saying so many things that I then pull back on. I'm like, God, do I really want to be another one of these people? But it's literally the work I want to do, right? So it's this very hard piece. So I have already started to build out some visions of what I would like to do. I am on a mission to build resilient people and businesses. We're doing that through building resilient cultures, but EMOSIVEWork will go beyond this part. And I think a lot of what my work comes back to is probably the conversations we've had today. It's about getting more connected to yourself, being more authentic in that, and recognizing I've corporatized a lot of my stuff to help get into organizations, but the real work is all the other stuff. So I get in via left brain. Let's talk masculine, resilience, logic. Yeah. But then the messaging jump to right brain once you trust me to recognize that that's actually the work that we need.
Exactly.
So I think I'll get more into
my last question, which I told you I don't tell guests before I ask them if you answer already. My last question always goes, when life is going 140 kilometers down a highway, how do you reconnect with yourself?
So this is an important practice for me every single day is I do a bit of like prayer and meditation. So I have my own kind of process that I go through in the evening. But it also connects to mindfulness piece. And I know you said there's always a good, like, what's a good tool for people? I teach this to everyone in everything that I do. I originally got this from there's a guy, Dr. Chris Lee, who I listen to, who is he's just amazing in terms of his approach to things. But it's a mindfulness piece. It's very simple. I say to people, 2 minutes is all that you need. And I use it. And I'm giving this to you because I genuinely, hand on heart, use this myself. And most people say they don't have enough time for mindfulness, right? They're like, I'm like, sure. Yeah, give me your phone. Show me your screen time. I'll tell you whether you have 2 minutes. Do it while you're sat on the toilet. Because I know as well parents will be like, hey, you do. I guarantee you have the time for anything you put value on. You will find it. So the value here is...
Don't say I don't have time. Say it doesn't. It's not important to me.
Exactly.
And see how that shifts you.
Perfect. Yeah. So if it's not important to you, that's okay. But for those who it is, it's very simple. I put my hand on my heart and I ask myself, is my head and my heart where my feet are at?
I'm not out of that.
Is my head and my heart where my feet are at? And what I'm doing there is I'm first, because what I'm trying to teach people is I need you to come back to your incredible system. This system, as much as we can fear it at times and be overwhelmed by things and whatever, the more connected you come here, this is your home and your peace in this experience, right? It's the part we come back to. It's the part that we're like, okay, let's just come back to self for a minute, because if I do, all the chaos out here can be less chaotic because I'm more focused and strong in here in the first place. And so when I say that, I'm going, where's my head at? Am I in the future? Am I in the past? Is my mind like fuzzy today? You know, when you wake up some days and it's like that whole, like, you know, when you put the TV on, for those who used to watch TV back in the day when you had no antenna, you'd turn it on, it'd be like, and you'd be like, oh, I can't get, you know, those days, I cannot focus for the life of me. So where is my head at? Because that's a really important part, because if I'm going to get you to focus on your resilience skills, if I'm going to give you, and we give some amazing tools, things like the ALL protocol, which is a whole conversational system. We give you an anchoring system, 1 to 10, to how to check in yourself. But if I expect you to do that, I first need you to know where you are, right? So how do I feel? Where's my mind? Second part is my heart. How do I feel today? What's the emotional state of my body? Don't be afraid of it. They're just data.
Body keeps score, yeah.
Yeah, we just want to know. It's like, I'm feeling this way. And this is why in resilience we teach you around composure. In composure, we have emotional labeling. Emotional labeling is one of the most effective tools when it comes to composure, because you can recognize where am I in this moment and I can label it. And the better we label it, the more effective we can use the data.
It's called spelling because it casts spells. And that's Brene Brown in her book, Atlas of the Heart. They define 87 of emotions that we get incorrect.
Beautiful.
And if you don't use them, if you don't label emotions correctly, you essentially don't integrate or process them.
Exactly. And as part of that, because that's one of the stories I offer in my course as well, is, you know, Brene and them, when they did that, they had 5,000 people over 5 years, and they looked at the data to figure out we had 87 emotions. Now, what they found also was how many could we label in the heat of the moment? How many do you think the average person could?
2.
3.
My God.
Happy, angry, sad. Now, my question to you is, if we have a series of people, a large cohort of our population, where in the heat of the moment, they're only able to use 3 words to label how they're feeling, when we know from at least her
piece of data that we have up to, but I'm sure there's probably more, but we have 87 emotions and experiences. So I say to people, if I give you this phone and I tell you to go and sell that with 3 words, how effective do you think your strategy is going to be? Now, if I give you 87 words, where do you think? So that's the power of emotional labeling. Susan David also does some beautiful work.
I love Susan David. She's South African.
I love her. Susan, if you ever listen to this podcast, because he is
we love you. We love you.
I fucking love you. So I did her emotional agility for a work program. And she's incredible. But what I love about her is also recognizing it's not just the power of learning the language of emotion, it's also the language around labeling it. So if I am angry, we have emotional fusion.
I'm experiencing anger, is what she says.
I'm feeling angry. Like I have a feeling.
I'm angry.
Yeah. Because when I have a feeling of anger, I'm externalizing it and being able to look at it objectively and make sense of it. Can I do something with this? And that is a skill of resilience. Can I do something with this? Is it real and relevant to the moment I'm having? Or can I use an emotional reappraisal technique to be able to shift this to a more relevant emotion that I'm having? We're not ignoring anything.
No.
We're constructively using how we feel and reshaping our moment in that time. And that's what resilience skills do. So for me, recognizing all the way back to the mindfulness piece, where am I in my head? How's my heart? Emotional labeling. And are they where my feet are at? What that does is it brings us to presence. We need presence. And when my brother passed, in the months that followed, I swear to you, all I had was 24 hours. Every day.
At some point, you probably had less.
Yeah, it was real hard. Like there were some days where it was real like, and it wasn't always about him because we are selfish creatures and we're all trying to like power ahead and do our own thing. I remember waking up some days and it was just about how am I going to get on my feet again after this? Yeah, I'm sad about my brother, but how am I going to get up again? And so in that process, it's like, how many hours do I have ahead of me? What can I do with today? What does today even look like? Because I had some real dark moments, I'll be honest, and we don't need to go into that. But there was moments where I remember standing and it was one particular piece during that period where I felt like I looked over the edge of the abyss and I went, I see why people do the things that they do. I can see why people go, I can't do this anymore. And that was a real turning point and, and probably gives me the strength and courage I have in my own lived experience to do the work that I do, where now it's accredited under the Australian Suicide Prevention Framework because I can recognize that loss of hope in people and why all this matters.
Rock bottom has a basement.
Oh yeah, and I've met it a few times. So
I guess here is, if there's anything I can leave you with and what do I do for it, and it's a lived experience, kind of like a lived practice, is ask yourself, is my head and my heart where my feet are at? Check in with yourself, use it as information and data, come back to yourself. You've only got today. That's only where it happens. And do it.
Luke, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
This has been absolutely incredible. Like I want to continue talking for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
There might be other people waiting for the studio. So thank you. Like I can't thank you enough for being here. Enjoy the rest of your time in Cape Town.
Thank you.
And we can connect with you on socials.
Yeah.
I'll pop them all into the description of the episode. But we're looking forward to see what EMOSIVEWork has next.
It was a joy. Thank you. That was good.